Hey, what's up, comrades? Welcome back. We're here to talk about the Days of Future Past, and this gets blown out of proportion a little bit. I feel with like the cartoon and the TV show and stuff, and it's been changed like multiple times to be different things and represent differently. It's like a 2-issue arc. It's another one of these like short and succinct, quick arcs that they really blow up later on in the comics. Like they spend a lot more time expanding upon the whole concept of time travel and multiple universe, whatever. But here, this is where it all begins. And so if you don't know anything about it, then prepare to learn something new. So we start with Kitty Pryde. It's the year 2013. Oh no, the dark future of 2013, 11 years before I'm recording this. And we see Kitty. She's now a grown woman because she was like 88 or something, 85 or whatever, when she's 12/13, and now it's like 40 years later, right? So she's in like her 50s. Yeah, wow, good stuff. Anyway, she's got some medical supply or something, and she's walking around through quote-unquote Rogue's neighborhood. And this is not Rogue the X-Men. This is a guy with a mohawk who's an asshole. And she's got a collar, so she can't use her powers. Anyway, she falls into a trap, and this guy comes over, so she kicks him in the nuts, and then he's going to, like, murder her. But then Wolverine shows up, Old Man Logan. And he beats the shit out of them. And he doesn't want to use his claws for some reason, because I think at this point, still, the continuity is that the claws are part of his mutant power. Oh, no, they definitely are, but maybe the adamantium. I don't know. Anyway, he doesn't use his claws. I don't understand. Because this is where the Sentinels are going to find him. And then she's got some sort of jammer device or whatever. Or a component of a jammer device. And he's like, hey, I'm going to come in at like 1 o'clock in the morning to make sure you're ready to go. And I'm going to free you guys. And then we're going to execute on the plan. And she's like, roger that. And then we get like a little, she's taking like a horse and buggy. Some horses are dragging a bus, and she's talking about New York. And they talk about how like the whole world's going to start nuclear war with America because the Sentinels have taken over and they're starting to expand their operations. Anyway, she has to check in at the mutant engagement camp because there's 3 classes of people. There's like regular humans, there's abnormal humans who have like the gene, the mutant gene, and then there's the genes. The mutants who are in internment camps. Okay, so Kitty goes, she like explains why it took her so long to get like the medical supply. The Sentinel like passes that, and she walks by a graveyard, and she talks about how everyone was killed, not just like anyone with powers was killed, not just mutants. And we see graves with like Reed Richards, Ben Grimm, Johnny Storm, plus a lot of the X-Men. The remaining X-Men are Storm and Colossus, and then Magneto's still around in a wheelchair. And also we have Rachel, who's new, and if you listen to the What If issue about Dark Phoenix, you know that she's the child of Scott and Jean, or Phoenix and Scott, or something, future, something. There's also Franklin Richards, who's a mutant. I don't know how much I guess it's super established at this point, but he has like, that's like a whole fucking another animal of things to like get really into. I'm not going to get into it here, but needless to say, he is hugely important in most of the Marvel universe. His like various forms and his powers like manipulate time and space and reality or some bullshit. I don't know. He doesn't come up too much in the X-Men. Anyway, they're all chit-chatting about the plan and what's going on and what took so long and yada, yada, yada. And we find out Peter and Kitty are lovers and that she had kids that were killed by the Sentinels and all that stuff. And so Kitty goes into a room with Rachel, and she uses her telepathic abilities, which she somehow was able to use despite the collars. No explanation needed, to send Kitty back into her form in the 1980s before all this mess happened. And we stumble upon the X-Men again in the Danger Room, which happens a lot. And Kitty is like, oh, and everyone's like, what are you doing here? And they all have to like try extra hard to like help her because she's like ill-prepared for this whole situation. And Wolverine thinks it's hilarious. And Nightcrawler eventually comes and saves the day. And Storm's like, Nightcrawler, why were you late? And we reestablish that Storm is the new leader of the X-Men. Nightcrawler is like, oh, sorry, I was watching like the mutant registration hearings. Anyway, we move to it's Kitty's like first test in the Danger Room by herself, and she just has to like walk across the room with a bunch of crazy bullshit going on. She's very successful at doing that, and right when she gets to the very end, she passes out, and this is because she gets possessed by future Kitty. Nightcrawler grabs her, everyone's shocked. They go to like the med bay, and Wolverine's like, there's something wrong here, but I don't know exactly what it is. And then Kitty wakes up and gives Nightcrawler a hug, like a smooch on the cheek, and everyone's like, the fuck? Because normally Kitty is very scared of Nightcrawler. And then she's like, no, it's me from the future. And Aurora's like, you hit your head way too hard. What kind of crazy bullshit are you talking about? And then Kitty's like, oh, the future Aurora told me you'd be the hardest to convince. And the Nightcrawler's like, well, it's very interesting. She did something. And then Wolverine's like, she smells different, or you can trust her. And then Kitty tells him that the Senator Kelly, who's part of this like mutant presentation, he gets assassinated today, and that leads to all this crazy bullshit. So if they can stop that, that would be just dandy. And then we get like a recall of what happened. We see that, okay, so Senator Kelly got killed, and the next guy ran for president and won, started the Sentinels. They killed everybody. It's horrible. The future's terrible and dark, and woe is me. Back in that future, we got unconscious Kitty, and she's being carried around by Wolverine, and they're running through the sewers because they're now saved and they can use their powers, except Franklin, who gets decimated immediately, which doesn't make any sense if you understand Franklin's power set at all, but whatever. Rachel gets pissed and uses her super Jean Grey Phoenix powers, and along with Storm and Colossus and Wolverine, and they beat up the Sentinels. They drop like a building on the Sentinels, and they got to go. They talk about having to go to the Baxter Building because that's like the center of operations for the Sentinels, so they can like end this programming. Back in the future past, back in the present, the 1980s present. At the Pentagon, we meet Raven Darkholme, who is Mystique. All right, cool. We got Mystique here, and then we also meet Avalanche, Pyro. Pyro's like a fire guy. Avalanche does earthquake stuff. And then Destiny, who's BFFs with Mystique and lovers later, I guess. She's like an old woman who has like force-seeing powers. And then Blob's there, and Blob's being a real asshole, per usual. And Destiny warns Mystique about this, and Mystique just threatens him. Pyro shows his abilities, and so does Avalanche. They're pretty committed to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants here or whatever. And then Blob's like, fine, I'll play ball for now. Dun, dun, dun. He plays ball. He's a little bitch. So now we head to the hearings in DC, which the Pentagon's like right there. I think it's not quite in DC, right? So Kennedy's talking to people. People are whispering. Moria and Xavier are talking to him, and then Xavier senses Colossus, Aurora, and Kitty come in, and Aurora's like, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And Aurora's like, "You should read Kitty's mind real quick." Then we see Angel, and people recognize Angel, and he's chilling with Logan somewhere else, and Robert Kennedy's like chit-chatting with Moria about some stuff, and then the wall bursts open, and everyone's like, "Oh no, what's happening? The walls are coming down." And it's the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. They got their like fancy costumes, and then they're about to kill Kennedy or Kelly and all that stuff. But then the X-Men, are there, so they all like throw their costumes on real quick, and it's like dun dun dun, the battle off between these two guys. The next issue, 42. Yep, 142. We get like a quick recap of what's going on, and then we just battle. We see the powers being used, and the X-Men aren't doing too hot, but they're holding their own. Wolverine keeps trying to kill people, and Aurora keeps stopping him, so we're back to that. Angel flies Kitty out of there so that she can be safe, and then Xavier and Moria get taken by a guard for their protection, which is really Raven Darkholme, which is really Mystique, and she knocks him out with some gas, and then and she's like, "All right, Destiny, we good to go?" And Destiny's like, "I don't know, there's still a lot of mystery." We then get a recap of the previous issue by Kitty as she's trying to decide if she should help the X-Men because they look like they're losing. But then she decides, no, I need to go help Senator Kelly. So she goes and does that, which is good she does because otherwise they would have failed their mission. Meanwhile, back in the future past, back in the future, the bad future, we get some more chit-chat. They're like going around. They kill some more Sentinels and they get into the Baxter Building. Meanwhile, Rachel and Kitty are just hanging out outside the building. Wolverine, Colossus, and Storm go in. Then we head back to the present where Kitty... Oh, this is where Kitty is like, cool, I'm going to go make sure Robert Kennedy... make sure Senator Kelly is okay while the X-Men fight, even though they're not doing super good. And then Storm's like, we need more space. So she blows everybody outside. And then they start beating them real good, and they start having a better time. And then the army shows up, and they blast Colossus. And then Pyro threatens the army. And then Storm takes care of that. And then Nightcrawler is fighting himself. So Mystique as Nightcrawler is fighting Nightcrawler. And then Wolverine's going to kill somebody, but then Storm is like, no more killing. And then Wolverine's like, man, it's bullshit. I think it's like Colossus is like, I know how to beat the Blob. And so they beat his ass. And then Storm defeats Pyro, and they capture him. And then Bad Nightcrawler gets like beat up, and he's like, "Wait a second, who are you? You look just like me. You have dark hair." Then Mystique's like, "Oh, you should ask your mommy, Margelli." And then Warren, who has like gotten rid of the police, or not the police, the army, and protected them from Pyro. Mystique disappears, and then the X-Men create some fog and dash out of there. Back in the future of 2013, the Wolverine, Colossus, and Storm come out of the elevator, and there's a Sentinel there, and Wolverine goes to kill it, but gets zapped down to his bones. Oh no. Then Storm blasts that one, and then two more come in, and she blasts another one, and then she gets yeeted in the back. And Colossus is enraged, so he throws another Sentinel out the window, and then Rachel she can sense everyone's death, just like Jean Grey, and she's super sad, and she's hugging Kitty and like praying that she can take care of the past so this doesn't actually happen. And Colossus is like raging up there. Meanwhile, back in 1980, Kitty finds future Kitty is possessing 13-year-old Kitty finds Destiny with a gun, or like it's not even a gun, it's like some sort of crossbow. And she's threatening Senator Kelly, and he's like, I'm not going to be a bitch to you mutants, blah, blah, blah. And Kitty jumps, knocks Destiny out, and as soon as the arrow misses, she teleports back. And so normal Kitty's back. The X-Men come in. Destiny she's an old woman, so just that simple hit from like a 13-year-old girl like crushed her to be unconscious. And the rest of the X-Men come in, and they're chatting, and then Charles and Moira come in, and they're doing okay, and everyone's all right. And then Kitty's like, the fuck happened? And Charles is like, I'll explain it to you. And he gives her like the Reader's Digest version, and she's like, I need to know more. And he's like, some other time. And then Angel's like, we did it. We saved the day, and everything's going to be great. But it's not great. In the epilogue, we see Senator Kelly with Shaw, right? And we know he's all about that Sentinel program because he's an asshole. Talking to the president, and the president's like, I like your thing. Let's do it. We're not going to like, we're going to work covertly, and we're not going to have like a big Sentinel program take over everything. But what we're going to do is we're going to create Project Wide Awake. And I have this asshole, Henry Peter Gyrick. He's going to be in charge of it. And we're going to get Shaw and him to make some Sentinels and to get this thing figured out. And we're going to make sure they're not a threat to the Republic permanently. Dun, dun, dun. And that's the end. That's it. Days of Future Past. What happens in the future past? No idea. Eventually we get more of that, but that like alternative future, I think it might get some like play from like a what if, or like at some point the X-Men gets like real crazy, like most of these comics, right? When they start hitting like bad writers who don't know what to do with themselves. But thus far it's pretty good. So this arc's pretty good. It's not nearly as exciting as like the movie or like the cartoon version, but it's still pretty good. It's interesting to expand on this stuff and play with some ideas that they haven't played with before. And this era of X-Men kind of gets a little wild. Shortly, we're gonna, within like the next year of like issues coming out, I think we get the New Mutants, and that adds like a whole new flavor to the whole situation. But yeah, so it continues to be excellent. The next arc is going to be Dazzler's first arc of several, because for some reason, I don't know, maybe she sold well, but the Marvel brass thought that Dazzler solo series was going to be a huge hit, and it goes on for at least a year or two. So maybe it was. Anyway, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. All right, bye.